You have to be equally patient as we are right now. And without wasting any more time, I will hand over the mic to Ms. Arshia Sattar for this event, Matters of Faith. Thank you.
Good morning. Well, you guys deserve the applause for coming here on this rainy, wet, difficult day. Thank you all for being here. We are cut down to a half hour from 1 hour, so I'm going to dispense with introductory remarks. You can read about our fabulous speakers in the brochure. You can Google them, you know, it's all magic in the 21st century. Alberto, Ambi, Rajiv, Amish, Keki, Esther, Arshia. This is fantastic. Khoob talia. Okay, very good. The question that we want to talk about this morning is how does our personal faith affect our work? Does it influence it in positive ways? Does it influence perhaps in negative ways? Does the act of having faith close your work? Does it open it? I know that in Amish's case, it inspires his work. We come from many different religious traditions. Some of us negotiate that faith very publicly in the work that we write. Some of us hide the faith that we're born into. Some of us flaunt the faith that we have chosen to adopt. Those are just very, very introductory remarks, and I'm going to let everybody address them very briefly, and then I'm just going to jump in, catch one of the balls that you've thrown into the air, and toss it around, okay? I think what I would like to end up with, all of us considering the idea that faith might interrupt critical inquiry, yeah? So, Alberto, would you like to go first?
Thank you. I don't think I'm given a choice.
Well, you can say no, and I'll get Ambi to go first. It's okay.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say how delighted I am to be here. This is my first time in India, first time, of course, in Jaipur, first time in this wonderful festival. It's hard not to believe and have faith in the written word when I see all of you here. I'm here on a misunderstanding. My faith is not a religious faith. I would call myself an atheist if it were not for the number of profoundly intelligent people that I know who have religious faith. So I would call myself an agnostic. However, I do have a certain kind of faith that I would call poetic faith. I have faith in the word. I don't think that the universe is interested in what we do, we humans. If it were, it would destroy us in an instant because of the idiotic, terrible things we perform. However, I think we, as humans, are redeemed by the word. In the Judeo-Christian tradition, the world is created through the word. The Gospel of John tells us that in the beginning was the word, and in Judaism, it is believed that the first thing created in the world was the alphabet, and it was the letters of the alphabet that asked God to create the world. Bernard Shaw, in a play called The Doctor's Dilemma, has one of his characters, a painter, in the moment of his death, say, when asked what his faith is, I believe in Michelangelo, in Rembrandt, in Velázquez. I believe in the beauty of color and the redemption by the form. My quote is not exact. But I would have to say then that if I were asked what I believe in, what I have faith in, I have faith that the word can make us, if not more intelligent, not more powerful, not better inclined to perform better deeds in the world, at least the word can give us consciousness of what we do wrong and what we do right. I think the word can offer a remedy for suffering and enlightenment on the questions that trouble us. I believe above all that the word can offer consolation. This is my faith.
Thank you, Alberto. What a beautiful beginning to a conversation at a literary festival where the faith is a poetic faith. Ambi?
Thank you. It's great to be back. I come from a Tamil Brahmin family. And my great-grandfather probably was a temple priest. And my grandfather never ate any onions or garlic in his life. And my father was also pretty religious, and he never probably touched liquor or smoked or ate non-vegetarian food. So when I got into IIT and I came back after, I think, the second or third break, and I told him, and he discovered that I smoke, I drink, and I eat non-vegetarian food. So he said, no, this is not on, you can't do that. So I said, well, I'm still pretty religious, but what's wrong with this? So he said, no, drinking is not okay, non-vegetarian is not okay, but smoking is okay. So I was actually piqued, how come? Smoking is okay. And he had a logic. He said, Vivekananda used to smoke. So I said, wow. I mean, so I then, I'm still pretty religious, and when I got into advertising, and I worked for 30 years in advertising, and then I decided let me do PhD, and maybe all this religious upbringing or something in the back of my mind got me to do PhD in the topic of religion and consumer behavior. How does religion affect us in what we buy and what we use? And that PhD then got converted into a book which Penguin published last year, and I'm taking your permission to show this to the audience, for God's sake, okay? And where it explores how religion affects commerce and how commerce affects religion in our country. So since I'm still within my time limit, I'll pose 3 things which are 2 minutes, right? 2 minutes. So 2 minutes. Okay, so 3 things which, how faith and commerce in our country are kind of intermingled. All of us know of this Ganpati festival, right? The fact that it was invented in Pune city by Lokmanya Tilak, Balagangadhar Tilak, as a community festival to worship Ganpati. He traveled from Pune to Mumbai, became very big in Mumbai, and today it's all over the country. Where, in fact, in Hyderabad, there is even a Muslim community which celebrates the Ganpati festival. The second interesting thing, which is again going back to my dad, in Chennai, every year there's something called a New Year sale, and my dad used to go and buy stuff from this shop called Vivek & Company. And so when I was doing my research, I said, look, how did this New Year sale start? And I discovered that New Year is actually, according to Hindu scriptures, is not really a good time to buy anything, because that is an off period. So this shop created a New Year sale where they gave special discounts, and my dad used to buy all sorts of junk, which I think finally my mom had to throw away, which is coffee maker, idli maker, dosa maker, etc., etc. Finally, they all got thrown away. The third interesting way in which religion is kind of mixing us is new rituals are being invented. In Mumbai, during the Navaratri festival, during the 9 days, you'll suddenly see in the Mumbai suburban trains women dressed in a particular colored sari every day. So it's orange on one day, green the next day, blue the third day, red the fourth day. So how did this happen? Is it something written in our scriptures? No. Maharashtra Times, which is a Marathi newspaper, 10 years ago announced that we are going to celebrate Navaratri in a unique way, and ladies are going to wear different colored saris, every day. And they announced tomorrow's color is red. And everyone started wearing red, including my secretary, Jency, who's a Malayali Christian, who adopts this 9 sari rule. It's an amazing thing. I wish a sari manufacturer had thought of it. You know, it would have exploded the sale of saris. So I think faith is in us. We kind of bring it out in various things we do, and I think I try to do that in my book as well. Thank you.
Okay. Rajiv, if you don't mind, I'm going to let Esther speak next, just to break up this series of male voices, yeah? So I'll have Esther speak and then the rest. Thank you. You have to talk about the role of faith in your work.
Okay.
Esther.
This is entirely because of the change of everything and the rain, so my head is in the clouds. But, well, I grew up in a Jewish family, a Bnei Israel Jew, and with a name like Esther. But till the age of 6, my grandmother kept some Jewish rituals alive in the house, like Shabbat and things like that. But my father made the zoo in Ahmedabad, and he sort of believed in Darwin. So he said no religion in the house. So I grew up without religion till I was about 46. But in Indian society, like you go to school, you go to college, and I went to art school on top of it, because in the Jewish tradition, arts are not considered, I mean Indian Jewish tradition, the arts were not considered the correct profession for a young girl. So I was growing up in various levels, and then suddenly I started facing a conflict, because although parents didn't believe in religion, I was sent to the synagogue, and in the synagogue I was extremely uncomfortable as to I didn't know who was doing what and what I was supposed to do, and which side to turn and not to turn. So it was a matter of great conflict. But I enjoyed all the Indian festivals, so I kept on going to the Indian festivals, but again I would suddenly feel that I was an outsider, not part of it. So I was outsider in the Indian religion, I was outsider in the Jewish tradition, so suddenly it became such a big conflict that I changed professions from artist to author, and at the age of 46, I wrote this novel called The Walled City, which I haven't brought with me. It's a very abstract version of myself looking at, because we talk about God, and in the Jewish tradition, a God without a face in the land of eyes.
Rajiv.
Namaskar. My faith is a process to go within and discover my higher self, which is the source of creative intelligence. And therefore, rather than being a blockage or a problem, it is my solution, and it's the very source from where my writings and my work emanate. This is not a kind of faith concerning belief in a God in the sky that sends messages of do this, don't do that, or anger or punishment or threats through various messengers. That is not the nature of my faith, so I have to define what it is. It's an inner journey, and it's to be in touch with, first to discover that higher self. Having discovered it, then learn to tap into it repeatedly, as often as I can. And after doing this for a long time, becomes more natural to be in that state. And then from that state, operate in the external world. So it is not escapism either. It is in being in touch with that reality, and then operating in the external world as a writer, as a speaker, as a family person, and so on, in every respect. My transactions with the world coming from that center within. So that is my faith. And this faith, therefore, drives my work. That's all I do for the last 20 years full time, is write on this matter. I don't have a day job. This is my day job. And I speak, well, this faith is not only the process which I described, it is also the topic of my writing. So the topic of my writing is in fact the methodology of the discovery of that subject matter. because I discover it's a laboratory, it's an inner laboratory where I discover the nature of what we call in my tradition called Satchit Anand. That is what my faith is. The second part of my faith is not the inner journey, but complementing the inner journey through intellectual reading, study, analysis, the mental level of knowledge of shastras, knowledge of all kinds of things, which supplement the inner meditative process. Because the meditative process is the experiential dimension. You discover something, you experience it for yourself, it is your own reality. And then the intellectual dimension verifies it, gives you the language, gives you the sophistication to understand how others have discovered it and how they have experienced it. And the two go back and forth together. That's the second dimension, the intellectual dimension. The third dimension is external encounters, like this one is an external encounter. I have over 100 external encounters per year on faith. I live in the US, so half of these are within the US and Canada, and half of them roughly are in India. I come 4 times a year. So for the last 20 years, I've had 100 plus encounters publicly on this issue. And that helps me crystallize, it helps me get feedback, it helps me meet other people, some I agree with, some I disagree with. So my faith also, it not only is my entire work, but it is a guiding principle on how I live. So I do not think of it as an obstacle or something that is a problem. I think of it as a solution. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. I have a bit of a problem because I was going to speak of the internal journey and mindfulness, but unfortunately Mr. Malhotra beat me to it.
That's okay, you can say it.
No, so I'm going to speak on another topic then. But just on mindfulness and on the internal journey, my grandfather, who was a Pandit and a teacher of mathematics and physics in Banaras Hindu University, he used to say that the process of mindfulness, of being mindful, of having Satchidanand, of being aware of who you are, of the internal journey, it's actually a scientific process, and that is something genuinely worth exploring. That's the only 2 bits that I would add to what Mr. Malhotra said. But since he beat me to this, let me approach faith from another perspective. There is this common myth that there is a contradiction in being an achiever and being happy. That if you want to achieve something, you have to be unhappy about your present situation, and therefore you want to change it, and therefore you'll achieve something. Whereas if you're happy, well, then you're happy, you're satisfied with what you are. So you don't feel the need to change anything. People who want to achieve things drown themselves in future possibilities or what the past could have been. But people who are happy are very completely and wholly in the present moment. So there's this common myth that there is a contradiction in wanting to achieve things and being happy. One of the things that I learned from my family, and I've the good fortune of being born in a family of, the only way to describe them are, they're all a bunch of Gyan yogis. I'm the dumbest guy in my family. They all read a lot, we debate a lot. And one of the things that one has learned is that actually there is a process on how to achieve things as well. There has to be some fire in your belly that drives you to achieve things. But how do you still find that detachment to to remain in the present moment, to remain happy? And I think knowledge truly helps there. It's some of the things that's repeated very often in our dharmic courses, in our dharmic discussions. And the trick is detachment. And detachment doesn't mean that you put your hands up and don't care a damn about what's happening. That's a wrong interpretation of detachment. When Lord Krishna told us in the Bhagavad Gita, Karmanya vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana, he wasn't telling us to just surrender to fate and let fate decide what will happen to us. That's not what he was telling us. He was telling us that actually if you get detached from the fruits of your labor, if you get detached from success or failure, then no one can stop you. Because success will not fill pride in your head, which can distract you. Failure will not fill demotivation in your heart, which can stop you. then who can stop you? Because you frankly are detached from what the others think. You can just focus on the karma that you need to do, and that is the real trick in finding that seemingly irreconcilable aspects of wanting to be an achiever and being happy at the same time. I learned this from my family. I went through an entire process. My family was very religious. I was deeply religious when I was young. I went through a phase of atheism in my teenage years, in my early years, and my family was so liberal that they said there's nothing wrong with that. You go ahead if you want to be an atheist. My father used to tell me, even if you're an atheist, you're still a Hindu. The Charvaks were atheists and they were also Hindus. He says, the problem begins when we try and impose our definition of faith, which is giving us happiness, on others. That's when the problems begin. We must realize that someone can have his own route to happiness through his own faith, and we must respect someone else's right to find his own faith as well, as we must celebrate and respect our own. Thank you.
Last but not least, Keki Daruwalla, who I believe is going to say something rather different.
May I be pardoned to take the discussion? Could I be pardoned to take the discussion on another plane? What happened? You can't hear me? Am I audible now? Good, thank you. I want to take the discussion at a tangent now, because I find faith is fine. I agree with the inner reality and the outer reality, or the inner journey and the outer journey. If you've been writing poetry for 50 years, you would have some sort of an internal journey as well. But mankind has oscillated between faith and disillusion over the last 3,000 years. And in the last 300 or 400 years, we've seen how enlightenment came, so-called enlightenment, and then disillusion, the faith in the divine went away. And after the Second War and the horrors of Hiroshima and the gas chambers and the bombings, things have again changed. There is a revival in religion. Now, there is always a positive side and there is always a negative side to the revival of faith, as we call it, or whatever. And the negative side very often wins. At the moment, you see what the ISIS is doing and what is happening in the Middle East. That is also a part of faith. And what statements we are hearing in India about, Ramzadas and the others, that also has to be taken into account. So when we talk about faith, there are people who don't really absorb what faith and religion are. If faith and religion make you do the right thing, make you a better neighbor, a better citizen, someone who speaks the truth, that is all right. But once the negative aspect comes in, and we have had, over the years, Mehdis coming up, we have had caliphs coming up, we have had godmen in the south coming up, and heads of deras in the north, and you know what they are. There are godmen who are accused of rape, etc. I think we should go very slow on this, and I'm an agnostic. I don't believe you may believe or you may not believe whether anyone is up there. And there is no up and there is no down. There is no one on the sky because there is no sky. So we have to take these things rationally. And there have been many arguments against the divine as well. So I think we have to look at all this in a wider perspective and stick to morality. Though morality without a spiritual dimension is very difficult. You know, when we are in trouble, we start praying straight away. The Parsis take off the sacred thread and doing their kasti, and the Hindus running to the temples. But I'm also talking about the black marketeer who raises a religious structure, whether it's a temple or a mosque or anything else or a church. after defrauding the public and the government and the taxman. So I'm more interested in the moral aspect rather than just faith. Thank you.
What a pity that we have only a half hour. Thank you all so very much for speaking so sincerely, so honestly, so personally about revealing yourselves to a room full of strangers. Matters of faith are extremely private, very personal, and none of you held back, and I thank you very, very much for that. I wish we had more time, but we don't. What I will say is this is really a rainbow coalition. Yeah, we come from different positions, we come from different faiths, we come from different religions, and from what we've said, faith occupies a very different space in each of our lives. What a wonderful way to think about our country, what a wonderful way to think about this festival. Diversity, tolerance, mutual respect is really what we need. So thank you for being here. Thank you all very, very much.